Hello and welcome to Album Club, a weekly podcast where we discuss our thoughts on various albums through the years. Since this is the first episode, we should probably introduce ourselves.
I'm Emery.
I'm Marco.
Hi guys, I'm Nathan.
I'm Elijah.
And I'm Roscoe, and online I go by Teffy. And for our first episode, we are going to be discussing the album released by Thundercat, It Is What It Is. Following his acclaimed 2017 album Drunk, It Is What It Is the newest album from bassist Steven Brunner, aka Thundercat, known for his work with crossover thrash band Suicidal Tendencies, and his collaboration with artist Kendrick Lamar on albums such as To Pimp a Butterfly. It Is What It Is, released on April 3rd, 2020, was co-produced by Thundercat and esteemed producer Flying Lotus, releasing under Lotus's record label Brainfeeder, and featured collaborations from many strong artists, including Childish Gambino, Lil B, Kamasi Washington, and Bad Bad Not Good. According to Thundercat, the album is about love, loss, life, and the ups and downs that come with that, and is dedicated to, along with featuring many references to the late Mac Miller. You can listen to the album on Spotify by clicking the link in the description if you're listening on YouTube or SoundCloud. So, what are our general thoughts on this album?
For me, I thought it was good. Like, all of it's really groovy.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, Thundercat, like, his bass chops are ridiculous. So, from that standpoint, it's always enjoyable to listen to. But for me, it felt like a lot of it was, like, filler up until Dragon Ball Durag. And then it was mostly filler out of it. And
Dragon Ball Durag is
It's
the
all
highlight.
filler.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't, like, for me, it was like, he was more, well, yeah, filler's maybe not the right word, but I would say more, like, background music, as opposed to, like,
Yeah. A lot of the album, like the way I would describe the album is dense. Like there's a lot, I feel like there's a lot of content, but a lot of it doesn't really feel, it feels like it's just there. It doesn't feel very, like, I don't know what a better way to put it other than like soulful. It's just, it's like a rock that was just thrown at you, I guess. I don't know.
It's just like completely hollow and soulless.
There's nothing to it at all.
It is a husk. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. But like,
I
you know what
think
mean.
I think it's interesting because there are definitely a few tracks that stand out to me. Dragon Ball Durag being one of them. I think Unrequited Love being another. But for a lot of
Unrequited Love is good, yeah.
it definitely does feel like it's a lot of transition music.
Well, and I feel like a lot of that is, like, further emphasized by the fact that a lot of the tracks are pretty short.
That's true. I
There are
like
quite
it though
a few,
because
like, minute to minute and a half long tracks.
I do like the fact that pretty much, minus a few tracks, all of it is pretty groovin'. Like, there's not a single track on this album that I can point out besides the ones that are literally just like transition tracks towards other tracks. There's not a single one that I can point out and say I could not listen to this and kind of jam to it, which I think
that's
it's
true.
It's definitely a good quality, but there's not
I
a
agree.
ton of substance.
My thought that I keep coming back to is that this is sort of like, it's an anti-karaoke album. Because can you sing any song from this album off the top of your head?
Oh,
Well,
I couldn't
Well,
hear like any
Yeah,
of
you
that.
cut out there.
You wanna just
Can you
repeat
sing
that?
any song from this album off the top of your head?
Dragon Ball Durag.
I can sing the first few
Hi,
lines of
hello.
Unrequited Love.
Yeah, like,
But yeah, for the most part, it's like, it's very instrumentally concentrated.
That's
yeah.
true.
And well, I feel like a lot of that has, like, boils down to the fact that Thundercat is primarily a bass player.
Yeah, he's not
And-
exactly a stellar vocalist.
He is a
Like, I like his style.
bad vocalist. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
objectively, he's not great, but he's like good
I like
at
his
what he
style.
does.
Like, it has a super cool sound to it, and his harmonies are super tight.
mhm.
But yeah, I wouldn't exactly call him like a trained vocalist. You know.
I think
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I would agree with that.
I think he's good, but he only works in some on like a few tracks.
I agree
I
with
feel
that.
like most of the tracks on here he did not fit his vocals. I thought someone else would have worked better.
Yeah, I think that's
really?
mostly
Yeah,
just
I see
due to
what
the fact that again he's not a vocalist. I think he's a bassist primarily. So
Yeah. Um, We talked a lot, actually, or we didn't talk a lot, but we did hover over the fact. A couple of us, Emery and Roscoe, you talked about Unrequited Love, and this was also a standout tune for me. So like, why did you guys like that?
I thought it was really catchy. Just listening to the hook right now, like I can hear it in my head strongly.
Yeah, I like the chords to it. I thought it was really neat, and just generally his bass playing. I mean, the same could be said for every song in the album, but that one specifically, I thought it was really tight.
Yeah, I
Which-
think just to add on, it's extremely smooth. I have notes written, and for this song, I wrote lo-fi levels of smooth because it really feels like it just sort of like the smoothness in quotes washes over the piece. It just sort of feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're being lifted along with it, and I think it's definitely the high point of the back half of the album.
My favorite part of the song is that I didn't know how to pronounce unrequited.
You cut out, you cut out again.
Yeah,
It's
cut out after you said
consistently
didn't.
unrequited.
Yeah.
It's poetic
Well,
or whatever.
Another highlight of the album for me was Black Qualls.
That is another one that I
That
remember.
one was really groovy.
I couldn't understand what anyone was saying.
Gotta read the
Oh yeah,
lyrics,
that
dude.
was fun actually.
Yeah, like yeah. One, I feel like, well, for this album, one thing to keep in mind is I feel like lyrics aren't really the first thing that's on Thundercat's brain. Like even when you think of like some of the Dragon Ball Durag lyrics, like do you like the way my ice drips in the light? And like the
Did you wear that dress for
Ev-
me? Because I'm trying
Yeah.
to smash.
That's
He's
sick.
trying to smash.
Yeah,
Of course he's trying to smash.
even though even though I smell like cat. Wait,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm covered in
I'm
cat
covered
hair.
in
Right
cat
all
hair,
these
but I still
down.
smell good. Yeah,
It's
although I do, it does have like a really interesting like, I do like his lyricism in it because it's more conversational, and I don't know
I do
why,
think
but
that is that
it's-
that song is Thundercat singing at his peak, in my opinion.
yeah.
Which one?
Dragon Ball Durag.
Okay.
Well, and then even like going back to like Drunk, like his other album, I like even like lyrics to Friend Zone, like they're like, oh, what are they? Is it because I wear my hair weird or because I like to play Diablo?
Mm-hmm.
So
Dude,
he
he's
just
a gamer.
I didn't
he
hear
just-
that, but okay.
he just he just writes like whatever the hell he's feeling at the time, and I don't know, I vibe with that. I hate the fact
Yeah.
that I just used vibe
And
with that, but
I
I
We
vibe
like
with
touched on Drunk. I think I prefer. I haven't heard all of Drunk, but I think I actually prefer Drunk. To
I
this
very much
album.
prefer Drunk.
I agree with that.
It's a lot. I think I feel like it's a lot groovier.
I have not listened to Drunk.
That's okay. We didn't
I
require
have,
you
however,
to.
listened to like the first 10 seconds of The Golden Age of Apocalypse, in which he samples the Thundercats intro.
Yes, he does. But for me, like with like what separates Drunk from It Is What It Is the fact that there are a lot more memorable tracks on Drunk. Like there's Tokyo, there's Friend Zone, there's Them Changes, there's
Yeah.
what is it called? Lava Lamp?
I think
Or what-
Them Changes is the gold standard of Thundercat song. For
I
me
agree.
personally, like I listen
Well,
to that and I feel like this is pure Thundercat right here, and I don't think there's a single piece on It Is What It Is that quite compares to the level of charm that Them Changes has.
Yeah. Well, and then. Well, yeah. I really, but that's not to say that It Is What It Is like had nothing that was enjoyable about it.
Oh yeah,
Like I still like there wasn't a point in the album where I was like I feel like skipping this song. But there wasn't really then in the same breath there wasn't really a point in the album other than Dragon Ball Durag, Black Qualls, and Unrequited Love that I really felt like I could just
Like you were
like
intently
actually
listening.
like I was in like actually saying actually paying attention is that's not really the right
it's a very ambient record.
yeah.
I agree. And like with when we're talking about like Black Qualls and Them Changes, like those songs, they also give me like a really, I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but they give me a really like Stevie Wonder tune, like kind of
Yeah.
vibe
Huh.
from
I
like
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
yeah.
It's because it sounds like a clavier.
Yeah,
It's just this.
I heard Caviar, Like
Caviar.
Clavier.
Yeah, no, it
Caviar.
sounds like a clavier. The way that
Oh, okay.
Thundercat plays bass on those tunes specifically, I feel is very reminiscent to the Stevie Wonder like clavier parts.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mm.
well I also really enjoy the fact that he experiments with like he does actually experiment with like different sounds on bass, which I appreciate because you know a lot of bass players are purists in the sense that electronics make it sound worse. But
Mm.
I appreciate that Thundercat like experiments with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think even just the fact that he has what is it a 6-string bass or an 8-string bass? I don't remember.
It's a six
Yeah,
string.
six,
Okay.
six
Just
string.
the fact that he has
Yeah.
a 6-string bass, I think, speaks a lot about how he approaches bass playing.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also like he can freaking shred. Like,
Yeah.
Can.
Yeah.
One tune specifically. Which one is it? Ah, shoot.
I
Uh,
don't. I
the
remember
intro?
there's one tune in Drunk where he just like rips. I forget which one it
Okay.
is.
I'm thinking of How Sway. How Sway
Oh, yeah,
is
that
track
was-
is track
That was
6.
just a bass solo.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really just like I like that tune a lot actually because
It's neat.
it's harmonically interesting. It definitely held me.
Yeah.
Oh, for my notes, I just wrote fine.
I mean, I'd say all of these tunes are fine by default.
By default.
Well-
That's the best we can give him.
Innocent until proven
Fine
guilty.
by default.
Yeah, it is what it is. Receives a fine out of 10.
Yeah. Well, but
What
while
can you
we're on the
say? It is what
topic
it is.
of like, because wait, like,
Ah,
it's like
Someone
Roscoe,
had-
you
someone
said.
had- yeah.
Sorry, Roscoe, you said like harmonically healthy, right? Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah, that's
so
wrong.
like, what do you think? What determines making something harmonically healthy?
healthy.
I mean, healthy. I say held me, as in it held me.
Oh, okay. I was like harmonically healthy. Because the harmonies
Yeah.
heal my body.
Yeah. No, I just listen to that
We
tune
keep
and like
naming.
it's definitely there's 2 tunes on this record that I think are harmonically interesting like to a higher degree, and that's one of them, and the second one is I Love Lewis Cole, which is track 3.
Oh yeah.
This tune is really I like this one a lot because it's basically like what if Thundercat wrote Rainbow Road.
Yeah.
It definitely has that
Actually,
group from like
yeah.
the chord changes, like the melody is very Rainbow Road-esque.
Yeah. It's also it's pretty like synth paddy.
It's pretty nostalgic.
Yeah, I that tune's definitely like an odd cut because it's definitely very uplifting sounding, which is an odd choice for the album, but I really like the tune.
Well,
It almost feels like
it's
you're taking an
also-
acid trip.
It's also structurally a lot more like a typical pop tune.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he is
Yeah.
actually repeating like
It's-
melodic phrases in the same order.
Yeah. Well, another thing for me that I'm just kind of thinking about again, a lot of it felt like I could hear it in a video game and it would make perfect sense belonging there.
Yeah, definitely.
In some ways, yeah.
Is Jazztronica the future of video game music?
I hope so.
Yeah,
cross
I
the
certainly
fingers.
wouldn't complain.
Yeah. I would almost love if I opened up Mario Kart 9 for Nintendo, whatever, and I go to Rainbow Road and it's just Thundercat singing.
Yeah. But like the thing for me, like what really helps with the with the whole mood of the album and what makes it so much easier to listen to is the harmonies that he does.
Like the
Because
vocal
all
ones.
of them are super thick.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of moments. I think specifically on
Many
Dragon Ball
notes.
Durag, they're memorable, where
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just when he says Durag, he makes this huge chord out of it.
Yeah.
Under that same umbrella, though, sometimes I think the thickness, honestly, again, this might just be a me thing, but I think when I hear too much of it, I kind of just tune out and get a little bit bored.
Yeah, that's
honestly.
valid.
Like
I
it
get
gets
that.
like almost like I don't think maybe it's overstimulating, but it's like there's so much of it to the point where it's like I don't really feel like they become moments anymore. It feels like it's just again like kind of like how Roscoe you said a wash. Like it just becomes a wash of just notes. It doesn't really
I-
feel like
Yeah.
I definitely
moments
see
of
that.
things.
I get
The
that
other-
sometimes.
The
Yeah.
other thing is, he likes to make all of his tracks really short.
Mm.
So then when he makes them really dense and really short, it feels like he's just trying to like, almost like he doesn't have enough to offer.
Yeah, well, it's
I'll
So
be
like
he's
honest,
just jam packing
he's
it.
he's really trying to make that minute and a half count.
I'd kind of prefer if they were dense and short than either dense and long or vapid and long, because I think that either of those would be kind of either boring or just like not like uninteresting to listen to at a certain
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
Well, that's kind of my point though. Is like he's not able to drag it on for 3 minutes.
Well, but sometimes
like,
you
he
don't
doesn't-
need to.
Sometimes you don't need to, but he does that with like so many tracks that it
Actually,
becomes,
That's
I do
like,
think
true.
that Dragon Ball Durag went on a bit too long.
I disagree. That song's groove.
That song is really good, but it started out as like, hey, I'm making jokes and I'm cracking jokes about me and it's all fun, and then by the end of the song he's literally just saying, yeah, I'm having sex, woo.
Well, see,
Kind
for
of
me,
gets to a point where it's like I get I get it. You can move on. Like I like the tune, but
I don't think it gets like, even though it's pretty repetitive, I feel like it's one of those tunes that's just so catchy that even though like, well, it's not even that long. Like it's only like it's 3.5 minutes.
that's true. But when you contrast it with the rest of the album, where tunes are usually going by in like a span of a minute, 30 seconds or so,
Yeah,
it definitely
does.
feels
yeah.
twice as long as the rest of them. I think it would have been kind of interesting if, keeping with the sort of jokey theme, like once he finally gets in bed, like there's like a B section that sort of shifts where it's like, I'm like bad at sex, and it's jokes about that, because it's a very jokey song, and I think
Yeah,
that
it
the jokes
is.
needed to carry longer.
Clearly, I didn't understand this song at all.
He makes love.
Okay.
What did she think it was, man?
He's not like a do-rag. It's fine.
Yeah, I get
Yes.
it.
He's
Yeah, but anyway, regardless, I think Dragon Ball Doing is a very weird turning point, because actually it's a very interesting narrative structure, because the album has sort of two halves to it. It has like the bright upbeat half, and then it has the second like darker, drearier, sleepier half. And I think Dragon Ball Durag
Yeah.
is it's the turning point where he's literally going to sleep. Like after he quote makes love, he's fallen asleep, and then the rest of the album sort of turns into like a dreamlike, starting with How I Feel, which is just a transition track, and then King of the Hill, which was one of the singles that released off this album, which is
Yeah.
basically like, it just feels like you took Xanax, is what I'm imagining Xanax feels like. And
That one has a really
he's singing
nice
about
chorus.
a king, and it calls back the Coward King to me.
Go check it out on
On
Spotify.
Spotify.
That's Emery's song. Emery's got a song.
That's my song. But to be fair, I did kind of think about that. Like when I was listening to King of the Hill, all I could think about is how you guys were gonna torch me for Coward
I
King.
wanted to
And
mention it
meanwhile, I'm
once.
just doing Rainbow Road.
Yeah, no,
Although-
it's just funny because it has like the king in his castle all alone
Mhm.
lyrics, and it's not the same. It's just very reminiscent
Yeah.
of this
But
one
the
song that
thing-
no one else knows about.
From a production standpoint, the one thing that I found really interesting about King of the Hill was all of the drums are panned hard left, so you don't hear any drums out of the right hand speaker.
See, I didn't notice
Oh.
because I was listening to this in my car, and my car speakers are very bad.
No, but it was like, it's interesting because normally like that can like completely throw off your mix and make it like unbalanced, but it doesn't sound off, you know?
Yeah, I think the unbalanced vibe is kind of what he was going for anyway, especially for this back half of the album.
Yeah, but like it works nicely being hard, like panned hard left, when in most other contexts it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking
So-
about imbalanced stuff. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Is the last track It Is What It Is, which is, closing track for It Is What It Is.
Yeah.
I thought that this was probably like my standout tune. I really like this tune. I don't know how you guys felt about it.
I also very much enjoy this tune, although I don't think it's a standout for me.
I thought it was pretty cool for a closing tune. It just kind of felt like, you know. But
I liked
which
it as
isn't
a closing
necessarily
tune.
a bad thing, to like, because like even though, like, and that might just even come down to my own personal musical tastes, but I think like I thought that it definitely had zero climax and just kind of came and went, and it was just kind of there for me.
Well,
I actually think that's the point.
Yeah.
I think this entire album is formed like not
Well, it is
necessarily
what it is.
musically, but emotionally.
Yeah.
'Cause there are a lot of tunes that are just him expressing any given emotion.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
he tries to. I think he tries to he tries to tie things together a little bit. We
And yeah,
could talk
he
about
does
like,
go and make something like that actually resembles a song every once in a while.
Yeah, a few times on the album.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
with
like
it,
there
in-
are in fact a few songs on this album.
Yeah,
like
there
no,
are
I mean
multiple.
like I think he does try to do some kind of like overarching theme
yeah.
thematic stuff here,
Which
which would be fun to talk about.
yeah,
It
personally
is
for
what
me,
it is, might not. Yeah, whatever.
personally for me, like, I think that, like, that's what makes a good album nowadays is like your ability to connect songs within an album, not just release a big bulk of music and be like, hey, this is an album.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I think especially sonically, Thundercat's really good at that. Like, there are very few points in the album where I feel this song does not, at least like sonically, like maybe not intent wise, but sonically, there are very few spots where the songs do not connect. And I think
mhm.
it is what it is actually kind of a really good pinnacle like of that, because when I was listening to the end of the album today, just as a sort of recap, I didn't even notice the transition between track 14, Existential Dread, and It Is What It Is. It just kind of played through,
Yeah.
and I kind of you can listen to them as if they're the same song.
I mean, Existential Dread is like what, less than a minute long, so
It's very short, and that's
Mhm.
part of it. uh, it is what it is. To comment on, it's a really interesting song for me because it's about Mac Miller,
Yeah.
and it's sort of a lot of the back half of this album. I feel like it's sort of touching on the sort of sadder aspects of life, the sorrows, and a lot of that focuses on Mac Miller. Track 13, Fair Chance, is also about Mac Miller, so there's a lot of reference to
Yeah.
him, as mentioned. It is what it is. Interesting because it's a very driving song in the drums. The drums really carry that track,
Mhm.
especially towards the back half of it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, for me, I think like based on like the themes that he talks about, like the ups and downs of life and like the happy and sad things and whatnot, I feel like the message of the last song, it kind of like it speaks a lot to kind of like Thundercat's like own like personal like belief systems, where it's like even
philosophies, yeah.
like his philosophies, where it's like he talks about the happy things and the sad things throughout the rest of the album. And the last song is just like, well, I mean, they happen.
Life goes
Just-
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the resolution.
Precisely.
I didn't mean that as a joke, but it came out. Yeah, it's definitely, it has the fade out. It has the sort of the song still going as the album ends.
Yeah.
I think it's weird actually that it's not the last track on the Japanese release. There's an extra track on the end which I didn't listen to because I couldn't
Yeah, I
find a
didn't
full
hear that.
I couldn't find a full version of it
Oh, yeah.
without buying the album obviously in Japan, which you can't really do. So we can't comment on
Nowadays.
that.
I mean, if you
I'm
try hard.
curious. I listened to a little bit of it. It sounded more like it would belong on the first half of the album. Like it's more upbeat, funky. So I don't really know. I don't know A, why it's there, and B, how it suitably ends the album. But it's interesting to note.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with that we can probably go down the track list and talk about the specific pieces that
Yeah.
we haven't already touched on.
Sure.
So
Yeah, sure.
track one, Lost in Space. This is just an intro track.
yeah,
Right.
this
Pretty
was
fun.
you think it was really fun?
It was pretty fun.
It's what I feel like it's almost
It
like
is what it
ties
is,
back
you
to
know.
the end. Yeah, well, it is what it is. I think actually Lost in Space kind of ties perfectly into It Is What It Is, where you could loop the album and it would sort of feel like a full circle
Yeah.
almost.
That's
Yeah.
that's what really caught me about this song as well.
Yeah.
Um,
It does a really good job at like fading into, yeah, like preparing you for the rest of the album, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And it ties in very nicely to Interstellar Love as well, track 2,
Yeah.
which is, I think it's a good intro song for the track. Like obviously disregarding the actual intro track, it
I think, yeah.
definitely
It's like a really wake up track, kind of.
And
You know
if,
what I
we
mean?
go with this
That's actually my
narrative that
favorite track
if we go with this
on the
narrative
whole
that I
album.
created, where it's actually just an arc about Thundercat literally waking up and living his life and then going to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
definitely fits that.
Outer space.
Well, for me, like the rhythm section stuff in Interstellar Love is pretty sick. Like the drums and the bass on this track are pretty nuts. Like
Mhm.
they're a huge part of the groove, and I feel like it sits in a really good place. I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think Kamasi's solo is like solid, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
I was
agree, it's
really
a
amused
good
that there was
solo.
like
Like
no
Yeah, well,
file.
I have
for
yet
it.
to hear-
the style is perfect. I think.
I've yet to
Yeah.
hear work from Kamasi professionally recorded that I didn't think was suiting its environment. I think that's something that Kamasi's good at.
Yeah.
But also, I think that it's also very easy to cherry pick Kamasi for the specific projects that you want him to play on. So I think he was set up pretty well for that one.
Yeah. Although it does sound like a pretty Kamasi Washington track. Like even when you listen to a lot of like it kind of reminded me of like some tracks on Kamasi's first EP.
Mm-hmm. Which I believe Thundercat actually played bass on a few of those, right?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
I forget
Definitely a
exactly what
collaborator.
tunes, but I can find them.
Mm-hmm. Track number 3, I Love Lewis Cole. We touched on this one already a lot. We can move on. Black Qualls.
Yeah.
Kinda touched
Black
on
Qualls
this
is pretty sick to me. It's pretty. It reminds me of like a lot of like Sly and the Family Stone and Parliament, and a lot more like traditional funk.
One of the few tracks on this album that actually featured guest rappers, guest vocalists,
Yeah.
which is an interesting. I don't want to say change of pace, but it's sort of an interesting thing to throw at the album because it's mostly either just instrumental or Thundercat's beautiful falsetto vocals over it. So it's definitely a nice
Yeah.
thing for the ear to hear as a sort of a separation, break up the nuance of
Yeah.
the rest of the album. Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, if I'm gonna take any of these songs and like have put them on a set list to play, Black Qualls would probably top that list.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's definitely very standout.
Yeah, I can agree with that as well. Yeah.
All right,
About
track
this.
5, Miguel's Happy Dance. I think this is probably the weakest track on the album.
I thought it was very funny.
It's funny. It's very odd.
I
It's
enjoyed
don't
it. I don't
worry,
know. I
be
thought
happy,
it
but
was very
He's
charming.
not happy.
He definitely ain't happy on that one.
Yeah, I don't like his singing on this one though.
Who is Miguel anyway?
Who is Miguel?
I want to
sounds
know
so
who Miguel
Vsauce.
is.
So
I
Visa.
want to know who Miguel is.
I want to know.
Oh my god, shut up, Tarzan.
Oh,
You're so
God.
stinky, dude.
All right, yeah. Interesting track. I think it's the only one that's explicit on the album, I believe.
Explicit.
Yeah, as in like
Oh.
has cuss words. So
I think
that's just
so.
an
Yeah.
interesting
actually.
approach. I don't
Black
think
Balls
that.
might have been.
Yeah. Black Qualls is as well.
Oh, does it as well? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
you're wrong,
sense.
dog.
Ah, man, dude. Also, interesting to note about Black Balls actually is that the album version features a verse from rapper Don Glover himself, Childish Gambino, which
Yeah.
was not in the single.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He speaks on about how people are obsessed with phones, man, and it's like
Yeah.
interesting choice for that one, but
Yeah, that was my only thing about Black Qualls. I don't know if I like Childish Gambino's little bit.
it's very funny. I think 'cause it's very out of context. I think.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So then next
track
next
six.
track,
Houseway.
Houseway.
track 6, Houseway. We already
Sick-
talked about this
sick
one.
bass solo.
Yo, you can sure play bass.
He definitely can play that bass.
Like for me, this song, it was like flex hour 100%, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, this was a flex tune for Thundercat to play bass on. There's not a lot of them on this album, so
No,
he gets one.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because this is definitely a transition tune.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're thinking about kind of like the structure of that, he goes from Miguel's Happy Dance, which is, a song where it's like, hey, if you dance, everything will be happy and fine, to just
But I
him.
hate everything.
Yeah.
Things are not happy and fine, really.
But, well, I mean, yeah. But then he goes into House Sway, which is just him
Kind of
noodling on.
vibing.
Dancing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
almost feels like it's such a weirdly like intense and like driven focused track. It almost feels like that's his quote happy dance where he's sort of like focusing on like the bass, he's focusing on the music, and like
Yeah.
sort of like his problems are like behind him. He's like rushing ahead of them, like trying to ignore them
Yeah. I don't know, I
as
thought that
as a
one was pretty
narrative
sick.
angle at least. I think that's
Mhm.
what it's going for.
Yeah.
And then I think it leads like really, really well into seventh track, Funny Thing, as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this track was clean, dude.
No,
It's
funny thing
basically
is my
just a
least favorite
cyber
track
jam.
in the album.
Really?
This
Yeah.
track is it's very interesting because I say that a lot. I just realized it's very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the few tracks that I think makes enough like heavy use of electronics. There are a lot of electronics in the album, but this one especially is like he sort of threw it all at it.
Yeah, I don't know. For this one, like this one for me, it felt pretty campy.
Campy?
Like I
The
don't know.
effects are thick.
Yeah, the effects are really thick, and they don't like they're thick for the sake of being thick. For me,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like, it
it's
doesn't-
like it sounds like Tron music. Something I'd expect
kind
to hear.
of.
I thought this one worked well.
I don't think it worked badly.
I think it's
but,
I think it's intentionally kind of tacky.
I think it's a lot of Thundercat though.
Also, it plays
Yeah,
the
he's
it
named
plays the
Thundercat.
lick in it, and I don't know how I feel
Yeah,
about
I
it.
do like that it has the lick.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
It's one of like the
I know how
backing
the
sort
lick
of like.
goes.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
It's not the melody. It's not like the well, obviously it's not the harmony. It's not the melody. It's not the bass line. It's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Melody with a lick harmonic over.
Harmonize
It's
the
not
lick.
lists every single aspect, like component of a song.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Alright.
Trek. Okay, we're not moving on then.
Well, I just think I don't know. You guys ripped it because you thought it was like too
No, I love this track
too
actually.
thick. I also
Yeah,
really like the
No,
track.
no, the only person who ripped it was Emery.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you didn't like it.
No, I
Oh.
like this track a lot. I love. It's something. It's vibing. I really do be vibing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's like I don't really have like a justifiable stance for why I don't like it. I don't know. Wasn't really my
You just-
thing.
I don't think you vibe with it.
Yeah.
I, just don't
I
like
guess
it.
it's
That's the
vibe.
mysticism of the age.
Its vibing frequencies didn't line up with mine.
Holy, you guys are so
Bad
nasty.
frequencies.
Emery's actually from America, guys.
Yeah,
That's a
he doesn't
lie.
get it because he's American. Yeah. Anyways,
Now
overseas.
you've revealed our location.
Ah man. Anyways,
Oh,
overseas. It's not
Sweden.
like it's on our Spotify page. We're in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah.
we are?
Oh, Spotify. I'm stupid. SoundCloud. It's on our SoundCloud page.
Okay.
After funny thing, we have overseas.
I
Overseas.
liked overseas.
This
Yeah.
tune
This
is
is the part
really
where I
good.
stopped taking notes, so I'm going to improvise now.
All right. I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember a lot of the tracks from the first half of the album, so I'm just going based off of what I did right, and I did write some stuff. Overseas. I like this track a lot. It's like a flex tune.
Kind
It's a
of
weird.
This was a
It's a
flex
weird.
tune?
It's like a
Oh.
bossa. It's a bossa flex song, which is a very interesting combination.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't think
really
this was
liked
very
the
flex tune.
harmony. No, I
Sorry.
didn't. I didn't really think it was a flex tune.
I think it's
just
definitely he's talking about how he can like travel to like any country. Like you just hop in the plane with his babe. We can go to Japan. We can go
Mm.
overseas.
Yeah.
We can have sex on the
The
plane. He
Travelogue
has
song.
a very strange fixation on having sex in the plane.
that's
Mentions
true.
he mentions that a lot.
I mean,
It's
It-
Thundercat.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Poor guy.
it's Thundercat,
Yeah.
and the album is called
It's-
"It Is What It Is."
It's in character for him. It's just funny because it's sort of like I don't know, dude. I think he was just horny when he wrote these tracks like this one and Dragon Ball Durag, and it devolves into him just really wanting to have sex at a certain point.
yeah.
I mean, like you listen to a lot of songs, and that's really what a lot of songs just come down to at some point.
Yeah, but this one's so overt with it.
Like, ever listen to "Cake by the Ocean" by DNC?
Yeah, but again, like at least they use a metaphor. Thundercat straight up says gonna join the Mile High Club, and I don't think anyone can use that lyric unironically.
That's a metaphor.
Well, I think it's just his fixation of specifically doing it on the plane.
Yeah.
Like, lots-
he's a
obviously,
Welcome
strange
to our
dude.
podcast.
Yeah,
Like-
this is our podcast. I think I actually think a really nice way to end the piece was with Zach Fox's narration, where he sort of comes on as the pilot of the plane, and he cracks a joke about
Oh, that's what it
Thundercat
was.
having sex on the plane.
Yeah. It was a funny addition.
Yeah, that's nice. It's a good transition into Dragon Ball Durag. It's sort of
Yeah.
like it's comedy. It's you laugh at it a bit, and then you get hit with the glory that is Dragon Ball Durag, track 9.
Mm-hmm.
Did
which
it
is-
have anything to do with Dragon Ball?
In the video, it is a Dragon Ball Durag, and that's basically
Okay.
it.
Because apparently I didn't understand anything about this song.
He mentions comic books.
Comic
You-
books,
you,
of
you
course.
can make the tie there, I guess. if you
Dragons,
want.
balls, and comic books.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about this song quite a bit in just terms
Yeah.
of like we
Extensively.
like this song. Like this song,
And I really
It's
like the
good.
mix of this one. Like from a production standpoint, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Cause like, yeah, I mean like, there's not really another way that I can explain it other than I really enjoyed it. That'll just sound like production jargon that no one will understand. So I'll just stick with the fact that I enjoyed the production of it.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think one thing that I like a lot about this piece is the harmony of the backing like instruments, like the bass and the I think it's a guitar that play together.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
it's very it's very
Mhm.
like very pleasing. I think this track is very good at being sonically pleasing.
Yeah, I love the bass line in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dog.
All right, I think we can move on to track
Yeah.
10, How I Feel.
Dog. How do you feel?
I feel like this track is a transition track.
yeah, I actually have like no, I have
Yeah,
It
Which
had a
is
song
kinda
before
like-
it,
about this
and it
See,
had a
this-
song
this-
after it.
This tune
It's a
was
transition.
this tune was just kind of like a bells and some synth runs with ooze.
Yeah, my notes for this are literally interlude to set up King of the Hill.
Mhm.
I wrote annoying singing. Singing gets old.
I think I enjoy the ambience of it, but like it's
Yeah.
a transition tune. There's not really. I
Yeah.
feel like there
Yeah.
is not very much.
There's
depth
no two ways about it.
to
Yeah,
look
it's
at.
it's definitely the first tune on I think the ambient half of the track, like the sleepier, darker side. It's again it's Thundercat going to sleep, where it's setting up for the sort of dreamlike trance that is the rest of the album. And that starts with King of the Hill, track 11.
That is
Which-
true.
Another tune that we
Solid
talked.
tune.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked already.
Yeah,
quite a
yeah,
bit about the
solid
song.
tune. It feels like what Interstellar Love was, but for the second half of the album.
Yeah.
Oh, how?
In terms of like how it sets up the rest of the track.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
hmm And track 12, we also talked about this one a little bit. Unrequited Love.
Requited.
Is it requit? It doesn't matter. Don't call me out on this like while we're in
Shut
the
up,
podcast,
Elijah.
dude. Yeah,
Google
I'm
says
kicking you off
unrequited.
actually.
Okay.
All right, this one, Unrequited Love.
It has like a unique groove compared to a lot of the grooves that have been throughout the album. Like a lot of them
Mm.
have been pretty, like if not ambient, then pretty like upbeat as far as like drums go. But this one stays
yeah.
back in like a halftime feel, which really no other tune in the album has done yet. Which I appreciated the variety.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that halftime stuff, but another thing that was also really nice is, you hear a little bit of bells, which really calls back to How I Feel, which I thought was like kind of a really
Yeah.
nice touch because you get like just the titles giving you already just like a sentence.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
How I Feel, Unrequited Love,
That's
that
a
gives
good
you a
connection,
lot of story.
actually.
And I thought that was really nice of this song. Again, that's one of the reasons that this song was another one of mine of like, yeah, this tune.
Yeah. No,
do really
Thundercat's
well.
really good at setting up his album, I think.
Yeah. And I thought like the chords in Unrequited Love, they're really dense, but I enjoy them. They're
Yeah,
really
this
cool.
tune is basically just like pure gospel soul influence, I feel like. It's very strongly there.
Yeah. And I think just in general, like for most songs in this album, it's pretty like progressive in nature. Like as far as like it doesn't really neatly fit into like a style that has been done before. He really carves out his own sound. Like he did sort of in Drunk as well, but I think more so in this one. Like there's a lot of tunes and I think Unrequited Love is one of them that's pretty distinctly Thundercat and not many other people have done.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's probably a product of like the
product?
emotional a product of the emotional approach that he takes to music.
Yeah, it's probably a product that he's selling that you can buy.
And another interesting part about this game
It is what it is. It's source now.
is that it's I don't know if I recall if there was another tune, I might be wrong, but like this is like the only tune that really comes to mind, to me at least, that it kind of actually like fully fades out and then goes into another tune. You know what I mean? Where like a lot of the other tunes,
Yeah.
you have that
Yeah.
that little
I think-
transition point.
I think Overseas does that, but it sort of gets around it with the speaking part.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a take about that. It's like the first time I listened through, my impression is that like it felt very continuous, like all the songs were connected.
Mm-hmm.
But going through it again, I noticed there's actually a lot of them that cut right out in between. I think that impression just comes from most of them sounding the same.
I feel you. I think it's part of why at least I feel that way is because a lot of the tracks he puts like next to each other are again very similar to like sonically similar. I mentioned
Yeah.
this earlier. I and that's not a bad thing. I just think
It's a neat sound.
yeah, it is a
Well,
very cool sound
that he has.
that I think Thundercat consistently nails. Like especially like, he did this on Drunk too. From what I listened to it, there's a lot of really great
Yeah, yeah,
transitions in
yeah.
that album.
Well, for me, like this album, it's kind of like a Sonic game of telephone, where it's like each song is similar to the next, but the first and last songs aren't the same. You know what I mean?
Except they kind of are.
Okay, but
Oh, fuck.
maybe that wasn't the best analogy in the world, but you know what I mean, where it's like
I know what you
songs
mean. Yeah,
like
they arrive
side by side in
places.
the album are very similar. Like,
Mhm,
but
definitely.
then
then
when
it
you
mu-
compare them
It
to like,
mutates
yeah,
as you go on. Yeah.
I actually, yeah, I agree with that a lot. And again, as we were speaking, we spoke about this constantly. It's just a testament to how good Thundercat is at just preparing his albums.
yeah,
Like it's this entire listening experience is definitely like a package. Like you can take singles out, but for the most part, the best way to I think experience these songs is to listen to them in the context of beginning in track 1 and ending at track 15.
yeah. Well, I mean,
There are
like,
really not a lot of singles here.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's also true.
Well, it like this style of album construction kind of like it reminds me of Daniel Caesar, specifically like Freudian, where every song is a transition
I'm an uncultured
And-
swine.
and it's meant to be listened to from start to finish. And like you obviously you can listen to just whatever song you want cuz they're all really good, but like it's really designed to be listened to from start to finish, and I feel like there's kind of a new wave of that in like R&B and funk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of that as of recent. Album preparation is it's definitely I think a lot bigger of a deal because nowadays with streaming services you can listen to entire albums for basically free.
Yeah.
So the idea of singles is a lot less important because like people aren't going out to stores and buying singles. They're going on
Yeah, that's true.
Spotify and playing the album.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like yeah, like this like album construction is kind of become an art that's a byproduct of like the digital age of the music industry, where it never really mattered as much because like now people want more, where it's like, oh well, we can listen to like I can listen to an album, yeah, I have his album right there, but what sets your album apart? And I feel like this narrative arc type thing is kind of what people are looking for now in long albums. Like obviously EPs and singles are different, but for like like LPs, I feel like
Long play.
yeah, the like this narrative arc is what'll really help an album sell.
Yeah, I agree. Can we actually talk why does EP if correct me if I'm wrong, it stands for extended play, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why are EPs always
Oh, I thought
shorter
it
than
was, like-
LPs?
That was like electronic playlist.
Yes.
No, it's
it's an
extended play.
extended short play.
Yeah, it's extended but backwards, I guess.
I mean, like, yeah, well, I mean, like, because it's extended from a single, so there's more than one
Oh.
track. I feel like that's kind of what
It's
it
just an
is.
odd, I guess maybe it's because LPs came after
Single
EPs
stands
did.
for short play.
Like, I think physically, like they weren't LPs like, yeah, weren't LPs like basically invented after EPs though, just because of like recording technology.
Probably long playing records.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would assume so.
All right, yeah, well that's a tangent. We can
Yeah.
move on now.
Yeah.
Back
Where
on,
were we?
back on it. Something we actually
Great
haven't talked about a
information.
lot is Fair Chance. We talked very little about the song.
Yeah,
What do you guys feel
that's
about Fair
true.
Chance?
I
Yeah.
like Fair Chance. I think some of the features are a little not necessarily weak, but I sort of
Ooh.
listen to them and I'm like, they're not. They could have been more polished.
I think that this was the most poppy song out of the entire album.
Well, for me, it was pretty lo-fi for me.
Yeah, that's
Like-
what I wrote down too.
Like, I felt like I could, like, that song would come up on, like, the lo-fi stream. Like,
Beats to relax and
yeah,
study
beats
too.
to relax and study to, and I wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah, maybe the vocals are a bit of a giveaway that it's not
Yeah.
it's lo-fi influenced. I think definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But I did also really enjoy the harmonies in this track.
Yeah, I don't think we have a lot to talk about. But again, just as far as enforcing the idea of of loss is this track is specifically about Mac Miller again and
Yeah,
how he
it- well,
died.
It also, like, foreshadows, like, the "it is what it is" by, directly quoting the same motif,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I appreciate,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
because it gives more of a sense of unity to the album as well.
Yeah,
For
and then
sure.
it just goes straight into Existential Dread, and it is what it is. Which again, both of these we've talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did we talk
Pretty
about
good amount.
Existential Dread?
We didn't really talk in depth about it. Existential Dread.
I like Existential Dread.
It is nice. It's about the future, dude.
Honestly,
Oh,
like,
I thought it
it's-
was kind of like shallow, I guess. It's like, man,
Yeah.
sometimes existential really gets you, dreading things,
I
but
think
you'll
you're
be
just
all
cynical.
right.
I mean, the thing is, this
Wait,
is coming
how
from
so?
him. This is coming from his mind. Like he's writing this. I'm assuming because of all of the references to Mac Miller. I'm assuming he's been writing, like at least like he's in the headspace where he was when Mac Miller died. He's sort of talking about how like the future and like things are uncertain, existential dread, etc. I think he's just kind of. I think he's just writing what he's feeling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, this is another track, a lot, like most of them where the harmonies are really rich, and I like them.
That's a Thundercat staple right there,
Yeah. Well, it is. 100% it is.
and it is what it is.
What I like about this track is that it sort of has to exist from like an emotional place, because it's like around a minute long. It's not commercial. It's not even like overtly
You can't sell this
musical,
one as a
it's just
single.
Yeah.
him sort of sitting around having
It's- yeah.
existential dread.
It's like it's meditative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can get behind that. It's a pretty good track, and I enjoy how Fair Chance leads into it and how it leads into It Is What It Is.
Yeah,
And that one we've talked about enough, I think.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I guess like we can kind of
Conclude.
close this off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Any closing thoughts about the album as a whole that we haven't touched on yet?
I've never heard this genre of music before. It's pretty neat.
That's
Yeah,
really
like,
fair.
What is this
like the
genre?
whole like
Of course, I don't
synergy.
listen to any music, so
Neo
Well, I
soul.
mean,
why
it's-
am I even here?
I enjoy
is-
like
is-
it like the synergy between electronic and funk and like soul.
Yeah.
It is pretty
is-
unique. Like it.
Isn't
not,
that neo
like,
soul?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like neo
pretty
soul.
much.
Sure.
but even
Wikipedia
like
says Jazztronica.
Says what?
Says what?
Loser says what?
Never mind.
No, I'm actually curious. What does it say?
Jazztronica.
Ah,
jazz
that's.
tronica.
I would not call this
Yeah.
Jazztronica.
I mean, it is
I would
pretty
even
like
call it jazz.
Yeah,
'cause
I would hesitate to call it jazz.
R&B
There's
slash
not like
soul.
improvisation on it.
R&B is, I think,
well,
like the
I would
broadest
say there is in
classification
house
you can make.
way. But
R&B slash soul is
Harmonically, it's
around
probably
where we
pretty
are.
close to jazz.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of music stems from jazz harmonically because jazz is very complex, and if you
Come on,
boil
even
down
Coward
jazz,
King stems from jazz.
yeah, it sure does,
Oh,
dude.
Why are you plugging yourself so much?
Twice, dude.
I mean, he's only
two
plugged it
other
once.
pe-
Like
yeah.
I plugged it first, so
Yeah, two other, and Nathan and Roscoe both played on the track.
yeah,
so,
we are
it
on that
does,
track. So
It doesn't hurt to plug it.
oh god, we're Emery and the Coward
Yeah, now I'm
Kings, aren't we?
associated with you.
Emery the Coward Kings plus Elijah and Marco, dude.
We're the Coward King.
Yeah.
It's the Coward King and his round table.
Marco, we need to do a track together.
No, I think he was just saying your name as like part of the title, but it got cut out.
Stop
Wait,
cutting out.
Whatever,
man.
it'll come up when I give
Yeah.
you my audio file, and
Yeah,
everyone
we'll
will
hear the
it,
joke
and
and it'll
you
be
won't
great.
hear it, and it'll
Will
be
it sound like regular interaction?
Yeah.
when was the
Yeah, I
joke,
just realized
Elijah?
because we've been making jokes about Elijah cutting out, but like it sounds fine on the podcast. They're not gonna know.
Oh yeah, that's actually really good.
Yeah, maybe I'll just artificially like
Cut them
recreate
out
the
by hand.
cutouts. Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, I think all in all,
Alright.
this album is a product.
Well, yeah, I think. Well, so are we going with the rating system of 7?
I like the 7 system, but I was also gonna use like decimals, like 7, like just not decimals. Sorry,
Decimals.
like
Got it.
7, 7.5, or no, you can't go above 7.
7,
it's stupid.
6.5.
Yeah, 7, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5.
Well, I'm fine with the 7.
I think
system.
There
we can just
needs
do
to be
7.
0 though.
Well,
The
yeah,
only-
because
the only reason I want to add decimals is because I think that having strictly a 5, 6, and 7 being the only 3 positive qualifiers is a bit
Yeah.
rough because like I if it wasn't for decimals, I'd give this album a 5, and I kind of want to give it a 5.5.
for me,
Mhm.
yeah, I think for me, I would probably give it. I would agree with like 5.5 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Just
That's a good range.
Yeah.
like, because I think that there's a lot to appreciate about like the musical elements and the like narrative arc going on, but to me, I feel like it could land better if there were more if there were more songs with kind of like a more distinct meaning and not just like filler songs that are just kind of there to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I give this a 5.5 because it's like in retrospect, this album is like really good. Like it's well prepared. The songs all transition nicely. There's a lot of meaning and like intent and like heart behind it. But just as far as a listening experience goes, I'm kind of left like with two songs in my mind, and the rest kind of washed over me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's kind of
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 songs, and yeah.
It's a wash of sound.
It's a good wash, but it's a wash.
Nathan, thoughts?
get behind that.
Well
Thoughts?
prepared wash.
Well,
Nathan, what do you think?
rating.
Oh, rating. I don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. 5. I guess 5 or 5.5.
Okay, yeah.
So
That's consistent with your critiques.
We should
We-
do like
I had
We've all
a
had to-
bigger
Ebert
problem.
thing.
What?
We should do like the Siskel and Ebert thing, where I'll give it like a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Actually, I propose that we change the rating system every episode.
Go for
yeah,
it.
let's do it.
Yeah, next episode
Okay.
we'll come back with a
Alright.
5-star system. Yeah,
Okay, let's
we'll
do
rate
it.
something on the pH scale.
All right, Elijah.
The Richter scale.
That's a
The
6 out of
moral
7 for
scale.
me.
The
gonna say,
moral scale. This is about
rate
a
it based-
philosopher king.
Rated on the
Elijah-
decibel level of
Elijah-
how loud is the album.
Elijah,
Yes.
what did you rate it again? Sorry.
6.
6.
6.
Cool.
Elijah gives it a 6.
All right. Yeah.
Pretty solid.
So that's I think we're hitting like a solid average 5.5.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Maybe
about.
Yeah,
maybe
I would-
closer
Yeah.
to yeah.
Which we've all been pretty consistent in our stances on this. Like no one's been really overwhelmingly for or overwhelmingly against. Like we've all floated around the same ballpark.
Nathan's been the most negative out of all of us, and he still gave it a 5.5 ish. So 5.5. So
He's like the most genuine of all of us, though.
he's very critical, which is good. We need
Yeah.
that angle. But
Thanks for being
It's also
mean,
annoying
Nathan.
as hell.
Come on, dude.
All right, well,
yeah, I mean, I give it
Genuinely.
a 5 as well. 5 vote.
Okay.
So
yeah, no, I feel that. That's yeah. I'm happy with this album. I think it was a good experience. I'm glad I listened to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have like a closing tag?
No,
Things that we say.
I forgot to
Wait,
write
can we,
one.
Can we do the Mr. May tag?
what's
We'll all
say?
sing a barbershop tag
And as
from
they-
across Discord.
Oh, like a barbershop tag or like a just a
No.
Aquarius,
Alright.
Aquarius, Aquarius,
Well-
Aquarius.
No. He's like, he's like,
falling apart.
as they say, we'll see you online.
As they say, it is what it is.
Oh yeah, what are we doing next week?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, we can plug that. I was gonna do that. Anyway, let's wind this up. Well, thank you for listening to the first episode of Album Club. We're gonna be trying to put these out roughly weekly, and you can follow us on Twitter if you want updates at Album Club Pod. Link will be in the description. If you want to listen to the album, it's also in the description. There's a Spotify link to it.
That's
And
if you're listening on
SoundCloud.
YouTube or SoundCloud.
YouTube, actually, YouTube and SoundCloud, they both have descriptions, and as of right now, there are only platforms. So,
Oh yeah, so they will be in the
Yeah.
description regardless. So
gotta have clout to get on Spotify. Yeah, it'll be in the description for you to listen to. Join us next week where we will be discussing the 70s jazz album Cat by Hiroshi Suzuki.